Both Lin Wandong, the school beauty, and I are vying for that spot at Harvard. The night before the exam, Lin Wandong secretly slipped the answers into my study materials, then turned around and reported me to the Academic Affairs Office for cheating. Naturally, I was disqualified and she was elected. The school didn't expel me over it, but everyone was whispering behind my back. I endured the eye-rolling and made it through high school, got into a run-off-the-mill college, and lived a mediocre life. Sticking to the rules, it wasn't until many years later, at a class reunion, that I heard our former homeroom teacher mention that Lin Wandong's now the youngest associate professor at Harvard. She really is a credit to our school. Then someone chimed in, "Oh, right, didn't Xin Lu, the one who cheated back then, end up working as an administrative assistant at a small company?" The whole table burst into laughter. I sat in the corner, my hand holding the wine glass trembling slightly. I didn't steal that answer. It never was. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my sophomore year classroom, with an unfinished math test still spread out on my desk. I think, in this life, I want to live differently. I stared at the math test in front of me. The dense array of formulas and numbers made me feel dazed for a moment. In the upper right corner of the test paper, the number 101 was written in bright red ink, with a comment from the math teacher next to it. I tend to be careless. I need to be more careful and thorough. These are the results of the first monthly exam in my sophomore year of high school. I remember this test. I remember every detail of the exam room. I remember the questions I knew how to solve but got wrong because I was nervous. I remember Lin Wandong's faint chuckle as I handed in my paper. I remember even more clearly the accident that happened a month later. "Xin Lu, are you okay?" My classmate Suchi gently tapped my arm and handed me a pack of tissues. "You look really pale. Did you get heat stroke?" I took the tissue and smiled at her. In my past life, she was the one who was still willing to eat with me and walk me home even after the whole school had turned against me. Later, she was accepted into Nanjing University, and we gradually lost touch. But at that class reunion, she was the only one who didn't smile. "It's okay," I said. "I just had a dream. It was a bit long." "What kind of dream?" "A really bad dream." I lowered my head and picked up the pen again. "But I'm awake now." Susie didn't press the matter further. She turned away and went back to her physics homework. I took 3 deep breaths, forcing myself to break free from those long, dreary 30 years of my past life. The humiliation of being wronged, the loneliness of being isolated, and the sting of being mocked still linger at the tips of my nerves, like tiny needles that prick me from time to time. But I won't let that happen again. I flipped to the last page of the exam paper, where I had only written the first step of a long derivative problem. In my last attempt, I spent too much time on this problem, which left me with no time to tackle the 2 easier word problems that followed. Looking at it now, this problem tests the comprehensive application of derivatives. And the steps are actually quite clear. I picked up my pen and began to write. The process of solving a problem feels like a ritual. Every step speaks to me. You're back, and you have a chance to start over. As I was writing the 4th step, a slender white hand reached out and tapped lightly on my desk. I looked up. Lin Wandong stood by my desk, wearing a meticulously ironed school uniform, her long hair tied back with a plain hairband. A smile that was just right, gentle yet distant, playing on her face. "Xin Lu." Her voice wasn't very loud, but it was just loud enough for the students in the rows in front and behind her to hear. "My math teacher asked me to ask you if you know how to solve the 3rd part of that long problem. If you don't, I can explain it to you after school." What a thoughtful school beauty. What a kind and studious student. In my past life, I felt the same way. I thought she really wanted to help me. So when she asked if I wanted to go to the library with her to study for midterms, I was flattered and agreed. Then, the day before the exam, she slipped a few slips of paper filled with answers into my pencil case. Not the standard answers, but those fake answers that have been deliberately labeled ace internal documents or top secret practice questions. I don't even know when those things were put there. It wasn't until the exam the next day, when the proctor pulled those notes out of my pencil case, That Lin Wandong was the first to stand up, looking completely shocked. Shinlu, how could you do that? I know you want to do well on the exam. But cheating is wrong. His tone was filled with the heartbreak of someone who is deeply disappointed in someone they care about. I couldn't say a word in my defense at the time. There were no fingerprints on those notes, and the handwriting was deliberately imitated to look like mine. Lin Wantao, on the other hand, was widely recognized throughout the school as a model student who excelled in all areas: academics, character, physical fitness, arts, and labor, and no one would ever suspect her. Afterward, she even came to comfort me. It's okay, just don't do that again. I'll help you catch up. What a great best friend. Shinlu. Lin Wantong's voice brought me back to reality. She tilted her head slightly, her beautiful eyes filled with just the right amount of concern. Thank you, I said, my tone so calm that it surprised even me. But I've already solved this problem. Would you like to take a look? I turned the test paper toward her. It was neatly written with the complete solution. Lin Wantong's gaze swept over my exam paper, and a fleeting, almost imperceptible look of surprise flashed across her eyes. But she quickly regained her gentle expression and said with a smile, as long as it's done. That's fine. I won't bother you anymore. She turned and walked back to her seat, her long hair sweeping through the air in a graceful arc. I noticed that she glanced in my direction one last time before sitting down. What I saw in that single glance, I couldn't understand it in my past life. But in this one, I see it all too clearly. It is scrutiny, it is evaluation, and it is a subtle, barely perceptible sense of apprehension. Lin Wandong never really wanted to help me. She just needed someone to play second fiddle. The moment the bell rang, the classroom erupted into chaos. The sounds of school bags being packed, plans for dinner being made, and discussions about games all mingled together, like a pot of boiling porridge. I took my time packing up my things, folding the math test and slipping it into my folder. I'm going to take this test home and do it over. In my previous life, math was always my weak point, not because I couldn't learn it, but because I was using the wrong methods. Lin Wandong once kindly lent me her notes, which were densely filled with formulas and example problems she had compiled. I spent a lot of time memorizing those notes, but I still didn't do as well as her on every exam. Now I realized that those notes contained a lot of material that wasn't covered in the syllabus, as well as steps that were intentionally written incorrectly. She wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to lead me further and further down the wrong path. Shinlu, want to go together? Susie slung her backpack over her shoulder and stood in the hallway waiting for me. Okay. We walked side by side out of the classroom building, across the playground, and toward the school gate. The setting sun cast long shadows of the two people, which overlapped and then parted on the red track. You seem a little different today, Susie suddenly said. What's the difference? I can't really say. She tilted her head and thought for a moment. It's just that it feels like you've suddenly gotten smarter. Not in the sense that your IQ has gone up, but more like, how should I put it? The way you look at things has changed. I smiled. In my past life, I wasn't able to protect Susie, after ruining my reputation. Lin Wandong went ahead and spread some dirt on Su Qian as well. Susie's father had served time in prison when she was in elementary school. I was the only one in the whole school who knew about it. I told Lin Wandong during a moment of emotional breakdown. That was the thing I regretted most in my past life. Susie, I said, no matter what happens in the future, never doubt yourself. You're much better than you think. Susie paused for a moment, then smiled, revealing two little dimples. You're acting really strange today, but thanks. Shinlu. As I approached the school gate, I saw a black sedan parked by the roadside, and Lin Wandong was bending down to get in. She rolled down the car window and waved at me. Shinlu. It's the weekend tomorrow. Want to come over to my place to study? Midterms are coming up soon. Susie whispered from the side. She's really good to you. That's what I thought in my past life, too. No. Thanks, I said. I have plans this weekend. Thanks. Lin Wandong smiled and didn't press the matter. The car window slowly rolled up. As the car drove away, I stared at its license plate and silently recited it to myself. I know who that car belongs to. It wasn't until much later in my previous life that I realized Lin Wantao's mother was the deputy director of the Municipal Education Bureau. Her life had been different from mine from the moment she was born. As for me, I am nothing more than a clown who serves to highlight her noble character. Let's go. I looked away and said to Su Qian. Over the weekend, I reviewed all the core topics in high school math. Instead of reading it from cover to cover, I skimmed through it, drawing on 30 years of work experience from my previous life. You can see at a glance which topics are core concepts, which are frequently tested, and which are common pitfalls. In my previous career, I worked as a data analyst at a small company for 10 years, dealing with numbers, reports, and logic every day. What I've learned over the years in the workplace: summarize, break down problems, and prioritize. Now they've all become my study aids. The most challenging topics in 11th grade math are derivatives and conic sections. Derivatives require a visual approach, while conic sections require a strong background in algebra. I used to memorize formulas by heart, but now I use diagrams to understand each property. Over the course of 2 days, I worked through all the example problems in the textbook again and found 3 sets of past midterm exams to work on. The results were better than I expected. It took me 90 minutes to complete the first test, and I scored 121 points. The questions I got wrong were mainly in analytic geometry and sequences, areas I hadn't had time to review yet. The second exam, which lasted 85 minutes, resulted in a score of 138 points. I got one multiple-choice question wrong and the second part of one essay question. The third test, 70 minutes long, resulted in a score of 147. The only thing that cost me points was that the steps in one-word problem weren't complete enough. I stared at my score on the third test for a long time. 147 points. In my previous life, I scored 108 on my first midterm math exam in my sophomore year of high school. Back then, I still felt that Lin Wantao's notes had been a great help to me. How ridiculous. I put the test papers away, opened my phone, and sent a message to our homeroom teacher. Ms. Zhang. Hello. Teacher Zhang. This is Shenlu. Are you available on Monday? I'd like to have you look over a few math worksheets I've completed and ask for your feedback on which areas I need to work on. Teacher Zhang replied very quickly. I'm free. Come see me in my office on Monday at noon. I looked at the message and smiled slightly. In my previous life, I never dared to approach my teachers on my own. I always feel like my grades are so bad that my teachers wouldn't want to waste their time on me. But now I know that sometimes the only difference between a good student and a poor student is a single act of initiative. Ms. Zhang is a young Fei, male teacher in her early 30s who teaches math. She is highly competent and very principled. In her previous life, she had been fooled by Lin Wantao's outwardly docile and sensible demeanor, and chose to believe Lin Wantao's words during the cheating scandal. But in this lifetime, I want to show her something different. On Monday at noon, I showed up at the office door right on time. Teacher Zhang was grading homework when he saw me come in and motioned for me to sit down on the chair next to him. How many practice tests did you say you've done? Let me see them. I handed her the 3 sets of test papers, arranged in chronological order. Ms. Zhang first casually flipped through the first set. Then her gaze came to a halt. Did you make this test yourself? Don't you have an answer key? No, I said. I bought past midterm exam papers from the last 5 years and timed myself while taking them. Mr. Zhang said nothing. He just flipped through them one by one. When she turned to the third set of test papers, her expression changed. 147 points. She looked up at me, a look of obvious surprise in her eyes. You scored 101 on your monthly math test. It's only been 2 weeks, and you've gone from 101 to 147. I knew she would ask that. Teacher Zhang. I was so nervous during the monthly exam that I got a lot of the basic questions wrong. But I actually know all that material, I just wasn't in the right frame of mind. My tone was very calm as I said this. This week, I adjusted my study methods and got my mindset in check. And my scores went up. Mr. Zhang stared at me for a few seconds, then nodded. All right. Now walk me through your thought process for this set of problems. Especially the last major question. It's the final problem. And there aren't more than 5 sophomores in the entire school who can solve it perfectly. I took a deep breath and began to speak. The final question was a comprehensive problem that tested the integrated application of functions, derivatives, and inequalities. In my previous job, I spent 10 years at a data analytics firm, where my daily work consisted of modeling, analyzing, and deriving insights. Questions like this aren't even the toughest ones for me. In 10 minutes, I walked through all 3 solutions to this problem from start to finish, explaining each step with clear logic and applying every formula precisely where needed. After I finished speaking, there was a 2-second silence in the office. Teacher Zhang picked up my test paper, looked it over several times, then looked up at me with a completely new expression. "Qinlu," she said, "are you interested in participating in the math competition tryouts next month?" My heart skipped a beat. I remember it very clearly. It was starting with this competition that Lin Wanong began winning awards one by one, building up her resume, and eventually securing a spot through early admission. "I do," I said, as I was leaving the office. I ran into Lin Wanong at the corner of the hallway. She was holding a stack of homework books. She must have brought them over for the teacher. When she saw me coming out of the office, she paused for a moment. "Qinlu, what are you doing in the office?" There was just the right amount of curiosity in her tone. "I went to ask Teacher Zhang a few questions," I said. "Oh," she smiled. "You seem to be studying really hard lately. Want to come over this weekend so we can study together? I can help you with your math." "No. Thank you." I waved my hand. "I signed up for a math competition prep class this weekend." Lin Wantong's eyebrows twitched slightly. "Math competition. Okay. Let's give it a try," I said. Her smile remained the same, but I noticed her fingers tightening slightly around the notebook. "That's great," she said. "Let's work together." "Okay. Let's work hard together." As I turned to leave, I could feel her gaze fixed on my back. I know what she's thinking. In her previous life, Qinlu was a shy, unassuming girl. The reason Lin Wanong chose to be my friend was precisely because I was such a pushover and so transparent. I posed no threat whatsoever to her status. Instead, it serves as a foil to her kindness and thoughtfulness. But I've changed now. The selection process for the math competition is scheduled for the middle of next month, and the exam will cover the entire high school math curriculum plus some college-level material. This means I have to master all of high school math within a month and reach competition level. Every night, I study until 2:00 a.m. during class. While everyone else was doing the homework the teacher assigned, I was working on competition problems. While the teacher was explaining the basics, I was deriving more advanced conclusions. Susie said I was crazy. "Qinlu, you have such dark circles under your eyes. Are you not getting any sleep at night?" "He's asleep." I yawned. 4 hours should be enough." 4 hours? Are you crazy?" "I'm not crazy. All I know is that I can't afford to lose this time. In my past life, I lost everything. I lost my spot in the university admissions program. I lost my innocence. And I lost 30 whole years of a mediocre life. In this life, I'm not just going to win it back, I am going to win it all." On the day of the competition tryouts, the exam was held in the school's lecture hall. More than 100 students from the entire grade participated. And in the end, only 15 were selected for the school team. Lin Wanong was sitting 2 rows to my left, surrounded by a few of her friends, and they were whispering about something. She was wearing a white shirt today, with her hair pulled back into a low ponytail with a black hair tie. She looked neat and fresh. On her desk sat a limited edition fountain pen, a prize she received for coming in first in her grade on the last final exam. Everyone thought she would come in first. In her previous life, she came in first. I sat in the corner, arranged my school supplies, closed my eyes, and tried to calm myself down. The bell rang, signaling the start of the exam. When the test was handed out, I skimmed through it from beginning to end. There are 15 questions, 6 multiple-choice questions, 4 fill-in-the-blank questions, and 5 open-ended questions. The first multiple-choice question was on sets and logic. It was very easy and took me 30 seconds. The second question is about function properties. And it's also quite simple. The third problem starts to get harder. It combines inequalities and number theory. This problem took me 2 minutes. I worked my way through the problems at a steady pace, making sure to get every single one right. When I got to the problem-solving section, I came across the hardest question on the entire test. This is a problem that combines sequences and matrices and requires the use of a relatively obscure theorem. I definitely couldn't have done that in my past life. But now, I've had the proof of this theorem memorized inside out for a month. I started writing. It took me less than 20 minutes to solve this problem completely. The exam lasted 120 minutes. And when I finished the last question, there were still 15 minutes left. I didn't hand in my paper early. Instead, I went over it from start to finish to make sure there were no careless mistakes before putting down my pen. As the bell rang to signal the end of the exam, I watched as the test papers were collected, feeling unusually calm. As Lin Wandong walked past me, she glanced down at me. "How did it go?" she asked. "Not bad," I said. "There are a few pretty tough questions." She sighed. "That last sequence problem took me ages to solve." "Did you find it hard?" "A little bit," I said. She smiled and said nothing more. But as I watched her walk back to her seat, I noticed her steps were a little quicker than usual. 3 days later, the results were announced. I went to see the rankings with Suqian. A large crowd had gathered in front of the bulletin board, packed in tight. All students there to check their grades. Excuse me. Susie pulled me along as we pushed our way inside. My eyes scanned the bulletin board, moving from top to bottom. First place, Shinlu. First place in the entire school. I stared at those 2 characters, my throat tightening. In my previous life, my name never appeared on any of the red lists. Every exam, every evaluation, and every award has nothing to do with me. And now, it's right at the top, in the most prominent spot. Shinlu. Susie let out a scream and threw her arms around me. "You're in first place. Did you see that? You're in first place." People around us turned to look at us. Some were surprised, some were puzzled, and some were skeptical. Shinlu. The Shinlu who scored 101 on the monthly math exam. "Did you make a mistake? She didn't cheat, did she?" Whispers buzzed into my ears like flies. Susie's expression changed, and she turned to confront those people. I grabbed her. "No, thanks," I said. "Let them talk." I turned around, my gaze calmly sweeping over the faces of those who were whispering. Then I saw Lin Wandong. She stood at the back of the crowd, holding a book and looking at the list as well. She didn't look too happy. It's not anger. It's not jealousy, it's something more complex. Fear. She was afraid. She was afraid that I, the supporting role she had so carefully chosen, would suddenly outshine her. Her spot in the early admission program, her dream of attending Harvard, and her reputation as valedictorian was shaking all of them to their core. I smiled at her. She didn't respond. She just turned and walked away. That evening, I received a message. It wasn't from Lin Wandong. It was from an unknown number. "Hi Shinlu. I'm Zhou Yi from the senior class. I heard you came in first in the math competition tryouts. That's really impressive. I'd like to invite you to join my math competition study group. Would you be interested?" Zhou Yi. I've heard that name before. A math prodigy in his senior year of high school and winner of first prize in a provincial competition. He was later admitted to Yale University on a scholarship. I looked into his background and found that he, too, made it on his own merits. He comes from an ordinary family with no connections. I sent a reply. "Thank you, Senior Zhou. I'm very interested. When can we meet to talk?" They replied quickly. "Tomorrow at noon, on the second floor of the cafeteria." The next day at noon, I met Zhou Yi. He wasn't exactly handsome, but he had a very pleasant demeanor, neat, short hair, a dark blue hoodie, and bright, focused eyes. "Are you Shenlu?" He glanced at me. His eyes filled with both scrutiny and curiosity. "It's smaller than I expected. You're quieter than I expected," I said. He smiled. "It's just a lot of talk online. Please have a seat." He ordered me a cup of milk tea, then got straight to the point. "I've looked over your exam. Teacher Zhang gave me a copy. Your approach to solving the problems is really interesting. There were many methods I hadn't even thought of. Especially that last sequence problem, you used a very obscure theorem. How did you come up with that?" "I came across it while reading a paper," I said. "Are you reading a paper?" He raised an eyebrow. "Yeah. I've been reading some math journals to get some inspiration. That's the truth. Over the past month, I've spent a lot of time searching online for papers and materials related to math competitions. And I've gone through all the introductory level literature on university level mathematics." The way Zhou looked at me had changed. "You're a sophomore in high school and you're reading math journals. Is that not okay?" "Okay," he said. "Sure. I just didn't expect it. Mr. Zhang said you scored 101 on your math test at the beginning of the semester, and I thought the test was just too hard. But now it seems..." He paused, his gaze fixed on my face. "It seems you've been holding back." I smiled but didn't explain. Hiding their true strength. "No. I just got a second chance at life." We talked for a long time about strategies for preparing for math competitions, analyzing question types, and problem-solving techniques. Joe is also a very diligent person. He creates a document for every competition problem, recording all possible solutions and common pitfalls. "You're amazing." As we were parting, Zhou Yi said to me, "I think you'll definitely win the provincial first prize this time. You might even be in the running for the national award." "Thank you." "Oh, right." He suddenly called out to me, his expression turning a little more serious. "Have you noticed that some people are questioning your grades?" I fell silent. "I know," I said. "What are you going to do?" "Let them question it," I said. "Once I actually bring home the first prize, all the doubters will shut up." Zhou looked at me for a couple of seconds, then smiled. "You're cooler than I thought." The skepticism has not subsided. On the contrary, it has grown louder. People have started sending anonymous messages in the grade-level group chat. Are Shenlu's grades real or fake? Who would believe that someone who scored 101 on a math test one month would come in first in a competition the very next month? A bunch of people chimed in below. They must have cheated. Maybe they got the test early. I'd been at the top of my class for 2 years. And then suddenly some underachiever beat me. There's definitely something fishy going on here. Lin Wandong posted a message in the group chat. "Stop speculating. Shenlu has really been working hard lately. I've seen her doing practice problems every day. It's only natural that her grades have improved. And we should be happy for her. What a great character." It not only protected me, but also subtly reminded everyone. I used to be a poor student. I looked at the messages on my phone and tapped the screen lightly with my finger. Then I typed a line. "Thanks for your concern, everyone. See you at midterms." No explanation. No defense. No plea for mercy. In a nutshell, it deflected all the skepticism back to the midterm exam arena. Midterm exams are in 2 weeks. Everyone is just waiting to see me fail. They thought the questions on the competition might be ones I happened to have encountered before. But the midterm exam is set, graded, and monitored uniformly across the entire school, leaving no room for any shortcuts. If I fail the exam, that will be proof positive that I cheated. I went back to my dorm room, turned on the desk lamp, and opened my textbook. 14 days to go. 14 days is enough time for me to get a lot done. The last weekend before midterms, Lin Wandong sent me a message. "Shenlu, are you free tomorrow afternoon? The coffee shop near my place has a new cake. Want to go try it together?" I won't give her another chance to frame me in this lifetime. "No, thanks," I'll reply. I need to study. Are you feeling too much pressure? Go for a walk and relax, it'll help you do better on the exam. No, really. I don't need it. Thanks for the offer. There was a long silence on the other end. Then a message came through. Xinlu, do you have a problem with me? I stared at the message for a few seconds. In my past life, those words were my Achilles heel. Every time Lin Wandong asked me that, I would panic and rush to explain, apologize, and try to win her over. But now, I don't anymore. No, I'll reply. I just want to focus on studying for the exam. Did someone say something to you? They're just talking nonsense, you didn't pay any attention to them. I know. That's good to hear. No matter what, I'm your friend. In my past life. I thought so too. I flipped my phone over and placed it face down on the table, then went back to doing my homework. The midterm exams are here. The first exam is Chinese. The second is math. The third is science. And the fourth is English. On the day of the math exam, when I walked into the exam room, I saw that Lin Wandong was already sitting at her desk. The limited edition fountain pen was sitting on the table in front of her, and she was holding a notebook as she went over her notes one last time. She looked up at me and smiled. I smiled too. When the test papers were handed out, I skimmed through them. The exam was of moderate difficulty, with a standard distribution of question types and no material beyond the syllabus. This is a piece of cake for me. It took me 50 minutes to finish the entire exam, and another 20 minutes to review it, after making sure there were no mistakes. I put down my pen. The student next to him was still furiously scribbling away, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window at the sky. The sunlight was lovely, streaming through the glass window and casting warm patches of light on the tabletop. I remember this time last year, when I was in the exam room. My palms were sweating from nerves. I couldn't even hold my pen steady, and I just couldn't figure out the answers to questions I clearly knew how to solve. I remember how, after exams, Lin Wandong would ask me with concern how I did, and then casually mention which questions she got wrong or wasn't sure about. It makes me feel like we're on the same level, and that I still have a chance. And when the grades came out, she was always at the top of the class, while I was always in the upper middle range. That illusion that it was just a hair's breadth away kept me chasing her for 2 whole years. Now I finally understand. It wasn't just a matter of a hair's breadth. It was a carefully orchestrated suspension bridge effect. It makes me feel like if I just try a little harder, I can catch up to her. So I'm always trying, but I can never catch up. I looked away, picked up my pen, and wrote a sentence on a scrap of paper. This time, it's your turn to chase me. The day the grades were released, the whole grade went wild. Xinlu, top of the class. Not a tie for first place. Not first place after bonus points, but a solid first place, ranking in the top 10 in every subject and scoring 34 points higher than the runner-up. Second place went to Lin Wantao. Susie jumped for joy in front of the school bulletin board. Xinlu, you're just amazing. I'm going to worship your test scores. A crowd had gathered around me, and the look in their eyes had shifted from skepticism to shock. Did she really pass the exam? A perfect score in math and only 3 points deducted in English. How could that possibly be cheating? Besides, this is a citywide standardized test, and the questions are randomly selected from a question bank. Who could possibly get them in advance? The tone of the whispering changed. It went from "she must have cheated" to "was she holding back before?" I stood on the sidelines, listening to what they were saying, but I didn't go in. Lin Wandong walked over from the bulletin board, her expression calm, but I noticed a faint dark circle under her eye. She probably didn't sleep well last night. "Congratulations," she said. Her voice was gentle. "You truly deserve to be number 1. "Thank you," I said. However, she paused. "I heard that the school will reevaluate the candidates for direct admission based on their midterm exam scores. Your scores are now higher than mine." "Really?" "I'm not very familiar with the policy on direct admission," I said. "It's okay if you don't understand." She smiled. I can ask the registrar's office for you. We're friends. After all, we should help each other out. In my past life, when she said we were friends, I truly believed she meant it. Now, those words cut through my ears like a knife. Sure, I said. Thanks for your help. As she turned to leave, I called out to her. Lin Wantong. She turned around. I've finished reading the notes you lent me last time. The methods in there are really useful. Thanks. Her expression froze for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. You're welcome. I'm glad it was helpful. I watched her receding figure and slowly let my smile fade. I've already kept that notebook safe. I took a photo of every page and compared them with the answer key. I've highlighted all the intentionally incorrect steps, material beyond the syllabus, and misleading notes. If she doesn't cause trouble, I won't do anything with it. But if she dares to do it again, I'll show her what it means to shoot herself in the foot. After the midterm exams, my life changed dramatically. Back in class, I was practically invisible. No one ever approaches me to talk. My opinions are always ignored during group discussions, and even when the teacher calls on me to answer a question, they do so in a tone that suggests they don't expect me to get it right. Now, everything is different. When class is over, some students come up to me on their own to ask about the problems. During the group discussion, my opinions were taken seriously. When the teacher called my name, there was a hint of anticipation in her voice. Some people have even started asking me out to dinner or to go to the library together. I don't mind this change, but I know full well how many of these people are sincere, how many are just going along for the ride, and how many are simply trying to curry favor. In my past life, when I was ostracized by the entire school, no one stood up for me except Su Qian. So in this lifetime, I will never again give my heart away so easily. The class group chat is buzzing again. It wasn't because of my grades, but because of a screenshot. The screenshot is an internal document from the Office of Academic Affairs regarding the scoring criteria for candidates recommended for direct admission. The document includes a bonus category for overall performance, which is worth a maximum of 20 points. The school's leadership team is responsible for assigning these scores. Someone dug up the list of students who received direct admission in the previous year and found that all students who qualified for direct admission had received the maximum number of points for this criterion. However, the specific criteria for that bonus point have never been made public. The discussion in the group is getting more and more heated. So does that mean the school has the final say on who gets a spot through early admission? Does it not matter how good your grades are? No wonder it's always the same students with connections who get recommended for admission every year. Lin Wantong's mother is the deputy director of the Education Bureau. Surely you know that, don't you? So even if Shinlu comes in first, it won't matter. Once the bonus points are added, won't the gap just widen? As I read those messages, I felt a sense of calm. It wasn't until many years later that I, in my previous life, came to learn about these things. At that time, I had been working as an administrative assistant at a small company for several years, spending my days typing away at a computer and occasionally listening to my colleagues gossip about how so-and-so's child got into a good school through connections. I always thought that direct admission was fair. I always thought it was just that I was under too much stress and my mind was wandering. It wasn't until many years later that I realized why. During that so-called cheating incident, the proctor happened to check my pencil case. Why the Academic Affairs Office had already decided I was guilty without conducting a handwriting analysis. And why everyone was spreading the rumor that Shinlu cheated without allowing me to explain myself. Because someone didn't want me to explain. Because someone needs a scapegoat to divert attention. Because someone needs to make an example of a cheater to highlight another person's excellence. I didn't lose to Lin Wantong. I lost because of the network she had behind her. Joe asked me to meet him in the small grove of trees next to the playground. You need to be careful around Lin Wantong. He got straight to the point. I know. You don't know. He looked at me. You just think she'll compete with you academically, right? I fell silent. I'm a year ahead of you, so there are some things you don't know yet. Joey spoke in a serious tone. Lin Wantong's mother is the deputy director of the Education Bureau. and she has a close relationship with the school principal. In the previous year's quota for direct admission, one student was admitted through this channel. That student had average grades, but was ultimately placed in a very good major. What are you trying to tell me? I want to tell you. He paused. If you're just getting better grades than her, you might still not get the spot. You need more than just good grades. You need to make sure everyone sees it. You have to be the undisputed number one, the kind of number one that no undefeatable dealings can overturn. I looked at him. You have to win so decisively that no one dares to challenge you. The wind blew through the grove, causing the leaves to rustle. Thank you, Zhou Yi, I said. I will. In the final month before finals, I locked myself away in the library, with almost no social life, no entertainment, and no rest. Susie said I was like a machine. My daily study schedule is planned down to the minute. I get up at 6 a.m., go for a half-hour run, and then study English vocabulary and classical Chinese poetry and prose. I study math and physics in the morning, chemistry and biology in the afternoon, and English and Chinese in the evening. I'll be working through practice problems and mock exams this weekend. I created mind maps for the key concepts in each subject and posted them on the wall of my dorm room. Read it once before bed every night, and once more when you wake up each morning. I organized the solution templates for each question type into tables, categorized and filed them, and memorized them repeatedly. I write down every problem I got wrong in my error notebook, noting the reason for the mistake and the correct solution, and I redo them once a week. Over the course of a month, I filled up 3 notebooks with my mistakes. My mind maps cover an entire wall. I've completed over 40 practice tests, and my average score has risen from 120 to over 145. Susie said I've become a different person. You used to always keep your head down, hunch your shoulders, and speak so softly it was like a mosquito. What about now? You're walking with a spring in your step now, she said with a smile, like a general who's just come off the battlefield. I laughed too. Not a general. He's just someone who's died once and doesn't want to die a second time. It was very cold on the day of the final exam. The heating was on in the exam room, and a layer of white mist had formed on the windows. I took off my coat and draped it over the back of the chair, then rubbed my hands together as I waited for the bell to ring. Lin Wandong was sitting 2 rows diagonally in front of me. Today she was wearing a dark blue down jacket, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders, and her profile looked very soft in the light. She is beautiful. That's a fact. But what isn't beautiful is her heart. The first exam is Chinese. I write quickly. I finished the basic questions and the reading comprehension section in 40 minutes, leaving an hour to write the essay. The essay topic is my choice. I thought about it for 30 seconds, then started writing. I wrote down my choice. I choose to believe in myself, rather than the labels others have placed on me. I choose to work hard, rather than accept my fate. I choose to stand up, rather than hide. I didn't write about reincarnation. I didn't write about Lin Wandong. And I didn't write about those entanglements of love and hate. I wrote about an ordinary girl's journey from feeling incapable to feeling capable. As I finished writing the last character, I glanced at Lin Wandong. She was writing an essay too, her pen moving swiftly across the paper, her expression focused and serious. If our relationship hadn't been so full of scheming and exploitation, if her success hadn't been built on stepping on others, if we were truly friends, maybe everything will be different. But there are now what-ifs in this world. After 3 days of exams, winter break has begun. Susie invited me to her house for the new year. My parents really want to meet you, she said. I told them about you, and they said you're my lucky charm, a benefactor. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Since when did I become your benefactor? Have you forgotten? Susie looked at me intently. Before the midterms, you dragged me along to study every day. My math score went from the low 70s to the high 110s. I never would have dreamed I could score that high. That's the result of your own hard work. Without you, my efforts would be aimless. I looked into Susie's eyes. There was no calculation or self-interest in them, only pure gratitude and sincerity. In my past life, I lost that sincerity. I'll never do that again. Okay, I said. I'm coming to your place for the new year. During winter break, Lin Wadong sent me 3 messages. The first time was on New Year's Eve, when I sent out a group message wishing everyone a Happy New Year. I replied with 4 words. Happy New Year. The second time was on the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year, when she told me she'd found a great math competition book at the library and recommended it to me. Thanks. I'll take a look. The 3rd time was on the 7th day of the Lunar New Year, when he asked if I wanted to go see a movie with him. I replied with 8 words. Sorry. I'm studying. She hasn't sent any more messages. I know what she's thinking. She wondered if Shinlu had discovered something. She wondered if she should do something to keep Shinlu in check. She was thinking that she absolutely couldn't let that spot go to someone who used to be a Nobo. DY. I put my phone down and went back to working on the competition problems. Before winter break ended, I finished all 40 sets of past competition exam questions that Zhou had given me. I worked through each set twice. The first time under timed conditions to simulate an actual exam, and the second time to analyze the approach and optimal solution for each problem. I've compiled a guide to common pitfalls from the mistakes I made on each set of practice exams, documenting every error I've made and the reasons behind them. Zhou also read my guide to avoiding pitfalls, and was silent for a long time. You little, he said. It's more useful than any other test prep book on the market, as long as it works, I said. Have you ever thought about getting published? We'll talk about it later. I smiled. It's not the right time yet. The most important thing right now is to win the provincial first prize and secure a spot in the direct admission program, so that everyone can see. Shinlu, whom they looked down on, has gone places they could never reach. The first major event of the new school year is the provincial math competition. Hundreds of top math students from high schools across the province gathered in the provincial capital to take this life-changing exam. The exam was held in the auditorium of the Provincial Experimental High School, where hundreds of desks were neatly arranged, and the blackboard bore the 8 characters. Stay calm and answer the questions carefully. I was sitting in the 3rd row by the window, looking out at the playground of Experimental Middle School, where people were jogging. Zhou was sitting 2 rows behind me and gave me a thumbs up. Lin Wandan was sitting in the front row. She's here to compete in the provincial competition, too. She had always been good at math. In her previous life, she won 2nd prize at the provincial level, but thanks to her mother's connections, that 2nd prize was treated as equivalent to 1st prize. I'm not nervous. I'm really not nervous. Back when I was working as a data analyst at that small company, I had to give weekly reports to clients, facing dozens of demanding clients. I was never afraid. Later, when the company downsized, I ended up doing the work of 3 people on my own, working overtime until the early hours of the morning every day, and I never once cried. Later, when I turned 30, the company went under, and I found myself unemployed and at home. I sent out 300 resumes but only got 3 interviews, yet I never lost my composure. I'm someone who has died once. What's there to be afraid of when it comes to a test? The bell rang, and I picked up my pen. Question 1. Limits of sequences. It's very simple. The second problem, involving polynomials, is also quite simple. Question 3 is on combinatorics. It's a bit tricky, but I've done similar problems before. I kept writing until the very last question. The last problem is a function equation problem that requires constructing an auxiliary function to prove the solution. This problem is very difficult. Fewer than 10 people in the entire province can solve it. When I saw this question, the corners of my mouth turned up slightly. Because of this problem, I've compiled a list of similar questions. I ran through the solution in my head, then started writing. When I got to the final step, I paused, double-checked my calculations, and only after confirming there were no logical errors did I write down the final answer. The exam is over. As I was rolling up the scroll, I heard someone crying quietly nearby. I couldn't solve the last problem. I couldn't figure it out either. This is way too hard. I don't even understand the question. I gathered my things and walked out of the exam room. Lin Wantong stood in the hallway, looking rather glum. Did you do the last problem? She asked me. I did it. Did you manage to do it? She stared at me for 2 seconds, then smiled. Wow, you're really good. Luckily, I've done something similar before. She didn't say another word. A month later, the results of the provincial competition were announced. I stood in front of the bulletin board and scanned the list from the top down. First place, Chen Lu. Second place, Zhou Yi. Third place, Zhao Mingxian. 18th place, Lin Wantao. My hands were trembling slightly. It's not nervousness. It's excitement. First prize at the provincial level. First place in the province. The only sophomore to win a first-place award in the province. I did it. I really did it. Susie was sobbing uncontrollably right next to her. Chen Lu, are you a god or something? You actually came in first. How did you do it? I held her in my arms, and my eyes welled up. In my previous life, I didn't even qualify to enter the provincial competition. In my past life, I was the audience member sitting in the seats, clapping for the performers on stage. In my past life, I was the background character everyone had forgotten. And now, I'm standing right in the center. When the news reached the school, the entire grade was in an uproar. Chen Lu won first prize in the provincial competition. She came in first in the whole province. Oh my gosh, wasn't she accused of cheating in the class chat group earlier? Who would dare say she cheated now? How could the provincial champion have cheated? Did she get someone from the Provincial Department of Education to leak the test questions? Got that. How about those who were bashing her come out and face the music? The mood in the grade-level group chat has completely shifted. All those people who used to anonymously criticize me have fallen silent. Some people started sending me messages to congratulate me. Some started tagging me to ask me to share my study tips. And some started bragging in the group chat that I'd always been really good, I just didn't show it off. I looked at the messages but didn't reply. I will never forgive them. They never stopped to think about what their doubts meant to a 16-year-old girl. In my past life, their skepticism made me feel ashamed. Their whispering made me feel like I was a mistake. Their cold stares and mockery made sure that not a single day of my 3 years in high school was a happy one. Now they're putting on a different face when they talk to me. But beneath that face lies the same heart. I won't forget. But I won't seek revenge either. Because the best revenge isn't dragging them down into the mud with you, but rising to a place they can never reach. Lin Wantong came to see me one Monday afternoon. She didn't say anything in the group chat or send a message. Instead, she came straight to the classroom to find me. Chen Lu, I'd like to talk to you. Her voice was a little hoarse, and her eyes were slightly red. She looked as if she had been crying. Okay, I said. We walked over to the bench next to the playground and sat down. There was a long silence. You win. She finally spoke up. I didn't say anything. You came in first in the province and first on the final exams. I can't keep up with you anymore. She looked down at the tips of her shoes. But I have a question for you. Go ahead. Were you just putting on an act all along? I looked at her. There was so much in her eyes. Resentment, confusion, and a hint of fear that was almost impossible to hide. I'm not faking it, I said. Then why were your grades so bad before? Because of who I used to be. I paused. I've been spending too much time on things I shouldn't be. Where? Trusting the wrong people. Lin Wantong's expression changed slightly. Are you talking about me? Do you think you're someone who can be trusted? I asked in return. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Lin Wantong, I said. Just because I don't say something doesn't mean I don't know it. You know full well how much of the content in the notes you lent me during the first semester of our sophomore year was intentionally written incorrectly. Her face went pale in an instant. And before the midterms, those things you said in the class group shit on the surface. You were sticking up for me, but every word was actually implying that my grades used to be terrible. Do you really think I didn't notice? There's one more thing. I interrupted her. If you dare to do anything, I have copies of all your notes here, along with a comparison to the correct answers. Would you like to take a look? I took a folder out of my backpack, opened it, and found page after page of comparison charts inside. Lin Wandong stared at the papers, her lips trembling. When did you? Ever since you first lent me your notes, I said. After I got home that day. I took a photo of every page. That's a lie. Some of it is based on notes I found in my memories after I was reborn, which I rewrote. But she didn't know. All she knew was that the plan she thought was foolproof had been seen through by me from the very beginning. So, her voice was trembling. Have you been acting the whole time? I wasn't acting. I said. I just didn't call you out on it. Why? Because I gave you a chance. I looked into her eyes. If you stop after that, if you stop picking on me, and if you just quietly settle for being second in your class, I won't do anything with this. But you didn't. You haven't stopped. You've been stirring up trouble in the group chat, spreading rumors behind my back, and even had someone check my answer sheet at the registrar's office after the exam. Do you really think I don't know? Lin Wandong jumped to her feet, took a step back, and stared at me as if she'd seen a ghost. How did you know all that? I don't need to know, I said. I only need to guess. And the look on your face just now already gave me the answer. She froze. Then an expression I had never seen before appeared on her face. It wasn't anger, nor was it sadness. It was a despair bordering on collapse. You know who my mom is, she said. You think you've won. A spot on the early admission list isn't just about grades. I know. I stood up so I was at eye level with her. So I'm ready. What are you ready for? Get ready for everyone to see your little tricks. I took out my phone. I recorded what you just said and sent it to the competition committee at the Provincial Department of Education. Lin Wantong's expression changed completely. You're crazy. Do you have any idea what the consequences will be? I know, I said. The result is that your provincial second place award could be revoked. Your spot in the direct admission program could be affected. Your mother could be investigated. I gave you a chance. I spoke slowly and clearly. I've given you plenty of chances, but you've never appreciated them. Every time you send me a message to check on me, every time you stick up for me in the group chat, every time you kindly offer me advisory just testing me, setting me up, and looking for a chance to bring me down, you think I don't know. You think I'm still the Shinlu who used to let you lead me around by the nose. You think you can always beat me, but you're wrong. The playground was quiet, with only the sound of the wind rustling through the grass. Lin Wandong stood there, her expression shifting from anger to fear, and then from fear to numbness. You'll regret it, she said. I won't, I said, because everything I do is to protect myself, and everything you do is to hurt others. It's not the same. Yes, it's different. I looked at her. You lost not to me, but to yourself. Things unfolded much faster than I had anticipated. The Provincial Department of Education received my complaint and established a special task force to investigate the matter. The results of the survey are as follows. Lin Wantong's mother was dismissed from her position and subjected to disciplinary action for using her position to secure a spot for her daughter in a special admissions program. Lin Wantao's second-place provincial award was revoked, and her eligibility for direct admission was withdrawn. She dropped out of school and, reportedly, transferred to a school in a city far away. Before she left, she sent me a message. You win. I hope everything goes well for you from now on. I didn't reply. I don't know if she was genuinely happy for me or if she was just bitter. I don't care anymore. The year of the college entrance exam, I didn't take the early admission route. It's not because the guaranteed admission spots were cancelled. In fact, after I reported Lin Wandong, the school carried out a comprehensive overhaul of the direct admission system, making it more transparent and fairer. I've been accepted without having to take the entrance exam, but I gave up, because what I want is more than just a spot on the fast track. What I want is to stand in the college entrance exam hall and prove myself with a clean, unmarked answer sheet. No extra points. No guaranteed admission. No connections. And no help from anyone. Just me. It was hot in the exam room in June. But there was no air conditioning. I was sitting by the window, looking out at a row of plane trees whose leaves rustled in the wind. The bell rang 4 times. First round, Chinese. Second round, math. Third round, social studies. Fourth round, English. When I walked out of the exam room, Su Qian was waiting for me at the school gate. How did the test go? Not bad. Is not bad a compliment? Something that's good enough will do. A month later, the results were announced. The top science student in the province, with a total score of 703, Shenlu. I stood on the balcony, gazed at the distant skyline, and took a deep breath. 30 years. I've been dreaming this dream for 30 years. Now, the dream is over. The day my college acceptance letter arrived, my mom cried. When did you get so good at this? She asked through her tears. I've always been this good, I said with a smile. It's just that you didn't notice it before. My dad stood there quietly smoking, his eyes reddening. He doesn't talk much, but he's happier than anyone else. I spent 4 years at Harvard, received 2 national scholarships, published 2 SCI papers, and after graduation, was admitted directly to a Ph.D. program, where I earned my doctorate. Later on, I became a university professor, teaches calculus. When I stand at the lectern, I tell the freshmen, don't let others define who you are. Don't let others tell you that you can't do it. You'll have to prove it yourself, with your hard work, your achievements, and your life. Many years later, I returned to my alma mater. Walking across the playground, the sunlight is just as beautiful as it was many years ago. I walked past the bulletin board, where a new list of grades was posted. A girl with her hair in a ponytail stood in front of the bulletin board, looking up at the top of the list. Her expression was exactly the same as mine back then. I'm a little nervous, a little excited, and a little in disbelief. She turned her head and saw me. Hey, are you from our school? Yes, I said. That was many years ago. So have you ever come in first? I passed. Impressive, isn't it? Not bad. I smiled. It's enough. She smiled, revealing a row of pearly white teeth. I want to be number 1 too. You can do it, I said. I turned around and walked slowly around the playground. The breeze blew in, carrying that clean, warm scent so characteristic of September. I remember that September of the year I was reborn. The sunlight shone on my desk just like this. I recalled the dream that changed everything. I think back on the people and events that once caused me pain, left me feeling hopeless, and made me want to give up. Now, all that is in the past. Standing here today is the result of every step I've taken on my own. No one can take my life away from me anymore. No,